I'm just going to jump into this text. First of all, I'm going to give you probably the longest introduction I've ever given, but you'll see it's very, very important. Maybe. I feel it's my responsibility as the pastor of Immanuel to keep you guys updated on the NBA Finals. You're not going to get this information just anywhere. I mean, you could go to ESPN, but there are two things that are worth mentioning about the NBA Finals this year. The first is the New York Knicks are in the finals. If you're a Knicks fan, that's okay. I'm sorry it's been a long, long, sad run for you. And it's worth mentioning at least because the last time it's happened, this is considered a miracle. I mean, they have missed the finals so many years. And in 1973, they were in the finals and they actually won. That's the last time they won a championship. 1973, they were playing, at that time, my favorite team, the Los Angeles Lakers. It was a battle of the Titans. Now, this is just, I'm going to prove to you how geeky I am. I'll tell you the entire roster of both teams if you want. But here are the starting lineups for the Knicks. There was Walt, Clyde Frazier, Earl the Pearl, what's his last name? Earl the Pearl Monroe, Dave DeBusschere, Jerry Lucas, the soon-to-be Senator Bill Bradley, and the formidable Willis Reed. You can applaud now. Okay, that was weak, but whatever. The Lakers were even more stacked. They had Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain. Yeah, that's right. He's the GOAT. I don't care what you guys think. He's the GOAT. And then Gail Goodrich, and then Jerry West. If you've ever looked at an NBA jersey, the logo is Jerry West. He is the logo. There was Jim McMillan, Happy Harrison, and a guy named Leroy Ellis. Okay, I got to stop for a second. Leroy Ellis hardly ever played. But I had to mention his name. He was a 6'11 guy. And the reason I mention him is I was in a pickup game in Portland when I was in college, and he was in the gym at the time, and he was on the left side of the basket. He goes up for a jump hook. He's 6'11, I'm 6'1, and I blocked his jump hook. And that was my claim to fame. Hashtag Rob Fairbanks for the win. Back to the series in 73. You can see how this could get really long. The sixth game of the series, Willis Reed, who was their center, went down with a torn quad. It was a severe injury, and at that point, I think I was like a sophomore in high school, I was certain that my team was going to win another chip. It was going to happen. But then the seventh game came, and they shot Reed up with every form of painkiller and whatever they were shooting him with, and I can remember like it was yesterday. He was running down the tunnel at Madison Square Garden, hobbling, running, and the Madison Square Garden literally blew up with applause. I mean, it was like this crazy event. They went nuts. He ran down the tunnel with hope in tow. And even though I was watching TV, I could feel Madison Square Garden begin to shake. As the game started, this is all from memory. As the game started, Reed at the elbow, 2 plays in a row, hits a short elbow jumper. And at that point, it supercharges the crowd even more and his teammates. And I knew at that moment that this high school sophomore's favorite team was going to lose. And they did. Okay, that's half the intro. Hey, just appease me. It's kind of fun. The bigger story this year, though, is the emergence of a 7'4", 22-year-old Frenchman named Victor Wembanyama, and he has taken the league by storm. Have you guys heard of him? You will today. Look, he's not really 7'4", and I'm going to prove it. I'm going to show you a couple pictures, and you'll put the first one up here. I'll tell you who's in the picture. The guy on the left side of the screen is Tim Duncan. He's 6'11". The guy standing next to him is 7'1". And then there's Victor, or Wemby, as he's affectionately called, standing to the right side. If that guy's 7'4", David Robinson's 6'11", okay? He is a unicorn. He's not normal. Show the next picture. This is LeBron James. Have you ever stood next to a 6'9" guy? They are giants. That's 6'9", 260 LeBron James next to him, and he makes LeBron James look like he's a junior high kid. Okay, now I'm going to show you another picture. This is a picture of Wemby with someone like me. That is Chris Paul, who's 6'1". He's my height. Now, if you're not in awe at this point, you should be. I'm going to show you how tall he really is. He's 1.5 feet taller than me. Would you come up here? This is how tall Wemby is. Everybody's down here. I'm getting dizzy. I'm so far up here. Thanks. It's really astounding. The thing that happened, he has been so amazing that people who know basketball call him the problem. Wemby is a problem. Here's a quote from Jaylen Brown, who plays for the Celtics. That boy Wemby is a problem. When I say I'm the best two-way player in the league, I'm not counting him. He's not human. I'm the best human player. So-and-so is a problem is kind of a cultural phrase. I don't know if you've noticed that. It means someone who's very disruptive and difficult to handle. And players who go up against Wemby honestly have to change their approach to basketball because he's so long, he's so athletic, he shoots threes like he's a guard, he handles the ball like he's a guard, and he has an 8-foot wingspan. He can dunk without jumping. That's not fair. So he's so quick and so long, he can contest almost any shot. People avoid the key when he's playing. I don't know if you understand the language there, but ask me later if you don't. He is the embodiment of a problem. Wemby is the problem because he makes everything else, every other person, have to think about the way they play the game differently. He's literally making the game kind of obsolete the way it's been played. Now, here's the reason I give you those two stories. Now, it's just fun for me. I feel warm inside right now. But I share it with you because the text we have today is one of many examples in the New Testament of Jesus being the problem. They would have said Jesus is the problem. The religious leaders who were challenged were disrupted by Jesus. Here's our text. Matthew chapter 9. This is a lectionary text this week. And we'll start in verse 9. This is Jesus interacting with a tax collector named Matthew. As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. "Follow me," he told him. And Matthew got up and followed him. While Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" He simply calls Matthew to follow him. That has to be noted. He doesn't put stipulations on him. He doesn't do anything except follow me, and Matthew follows. Immediately, however, after this, Jesus accompanies Matthew to a dinner with a room full of tax collectors and quote-unquote sinners. Now, just for fun, I've got a few notes here, but why were tax collectors so looked down upon at that particular time? Anybody have any background context for us? Yeah, go ahead. They were tax collectors. Yeah, I guess say no more. Okay, we have a hand back here. Go ahead. Good job. That's exactly right. Part of their job, how they made their money, was not only take the tax, but exploit more. And so that made them probably like today. No, I'm just kidding. The tax collectors today don't have that privilege. Well, I don't know. I don't really know about that. Anything else? Yeah. They were traitors. They were collaborators with Rome, which made them not a very favored person. We have to understand that. They were considered ritually unclean by the very nature of their daily work. It was generally assumed that they were the wrong kind of folk. They were not the kind of people you're supposed to hang out with. They were sinners. That's why they put this in here. As a matter of fact, every time you see the word tax collector in the New Testament, it's followed by and sinners. So we know that because of this text, the religious leaders, the Pharisees, asked Jesus' disciples this question: why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? In other words, Jesus was a problem to the religious leaders, to the Pharisees. They couldn't comprehend what was going on. Jesus, overhearing the question, responded this way. This is Matthew 9, 12, and 13. It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn this. Learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. I love that. You get to go home and learn this. This is very important. It's better to have mercy than sacrifice. In other words, mercy is at the very center of his message, not the Old Testament sacrificial approach to spirituality. The actual word mercy here is the word elios. And some of you know this, but there was a Greek translation of the Old Testament called the Septuagint. And essentially, this word elios was the word they used to translate hesed, which is a word we've talked a lot about here. Hesed is the Hebrew word that talks about loving kindness or loyal love. It's the type of love that never gives up. So that's what Jesus was saying. This is what I value more than anything, this elios. So when Jesus says it's better to have mercy than sacrifice, we have to put it in the right context. He is talking about loyal love. It is a relational love. It's even covenantal as far as an idea. It's not that Jesus is opposed to sacrifice, church. Sacrifice is a very real part of Christianity. The problem is when sacrifice becomes the litmus test for rightness or favor with God. That's how I earn my way in. The idea that I can behave my way into right relationship with God. That is actually antithetical to elios. It doesn't work with that. Elios means God's favor comes because God is who he is, not because of our behavior, our efforts, or our moral performance. As you can see, the religious leaders asked, it was rooted in exactly this assumption. Tax collectors and sinners were by their very nature considered unacceptable, but Jesus comes along and says, I did not come for the folks that have it all together. I came for those who don't, who are humble and even humble enough to admit it. I love the book Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. If you've not read it, I want to just say please do. In the book, he stated this: mercy is most empowering, liberating, and transformative when it's directed to the undeserving. The people who haven't earned it, who haven't even sought it, are the most meaningful recipients of compassion. Now, I'm not going to read this next section, but if we could, this is what we're going to find. We're going to find a photo album of what mercy looks like. We've already seen part of it as he interacts with Matthew and his friends. But if we were to go through list by list, what happens next? This is what happens. There was a leader who came to Jesus and said, my daughter has died. Will you come and see her? At that point, the young girl that had died was revived. She lived again. Say mercy. That's a picture of mercy. We see him healing by the simple act of his presence, a woman who has been hemorrhaging for 12 years, by merely touching his cloak. Say mercy. That's another picture of mercy for us. We meet two blind men who use the same Greek word, elios, for mercy as they desperately plea Jesus to touch them and heal them. And that's exactly what Jesus does. He touches their eyes and they can see again. Say mercy. We see another one. We get a glimpse of a man bound by the demonic, unable to speak. Jesus casts out the demon, and the man can communicate freely again without hindrance, and the church said mercy. All of it is a demonstration that it is not performance that moves Jesus, but brokenness, the heart, the longing. That is so key to our discussion today. At the end of the passage, comes a summarizing statement about Jesus, that he went through the region teaching in the synagogue, declaring the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. That's in verses 35 through 36. And we have to catch this. This is what 36 says. It says, when he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. I don't know about you, but this is not on my notes, but it kind of sounds like the people he's trying to describe earlier, that they don't have a way. They're helpless. They don't have direction in their life. The second word that describes this wild, unimaginable love of God is this word, splagmizomai. That's the compassion word. Throughout the New Testament, it always says Jesus looked upon the people and he had compassion on them. He had compassion on them. Not only is mercy described earlier in this passage, but the word compassion comes from this word splagmizomai. I said it to Robbie this morning, and she goes, "Oh, that's kind of a gross word. You know, it's kind of." I go, "Yeah, you know what it means? It means your guts. It means your guts. I mean, inside, deep within you, there's compassion. It's not a transactional deal. It's not even something that's built around covenant. It's built upon emotion, around caring love. It speaks of something rising from the gut. Over and over in the New Testament, he says that Jesus looked out over a group, whether they were hungry or they were sick or they were suffering, and it says he was moved by this deep emotional love. This is an important piece to this, because sometimes we think of mercy as just extending something that you don't deserve, but there's a heart behind that. I have a friend who's a pastor. He's about 40, a little older than 40, maybe 42 or 3. And he's married, has 3 kids, 3 teenage boys. And about a month ago, his wife was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 42. Robbie and I love watching time travel shows and movies. And one of the cardinal rules in a time travel movie is you don't tell people about their future. It messes up the space-time continuum. Unfortunately, as far as I know, there's still no cure for Alzheimer's. It is a progressively debilitating disease. Every time I think about it, I picture my friend and his 3 teenage boys caring for his wife, knowing what the future holds. I believe healing can happen, but medically she faces a very rough road ahead, and so does my friend and his kids. Every time I talk about him, I almost bend over with grief, because it's so strange for a young woman to have that diagnosis. I try to be an encouragement, but in the back of my mind, I can feel his fear of the future. I'm not sure how to fully describe splagmizomai, but I think it's something like that. It's where something happens so much that your gut is just wrenched. Do you guys believe that Jesus has those emotions toward us? That compassion is ours? See, mercy is what Jesus commutes to us by covenant. Compassion is what he feels for us in his gut. In Jesus, the obligation and the feeling are perfectly fused. He does not help us reluctantly out of duty nor sentimentality, or without commitment. He is moved and he acts every time. That's why this message is so important for us. This passage matters so much because it creates the coordinates for what Christianity is supposed to look like and be. It is more than a command. I think mercy is our orientation. It has more to do with ontology, or our being, the church's being, than any obligation. As we receive mercy, its most natural expression is to give it away. If we do not receive mercy, it's very difficult to give mercy to anybody else. It's in receiving we're able to give it away. That's why Jesus says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy." So just for a few minutes, let me give you just a couple takeaways that might help us kind of keep our eye on the ball here. The first takeaway is this. Listen, mercy refuses to stay inside the lines. Mercy refuses to stay inside the lines. This is the very reason Jesus was a problem, that he went outside the lines. This was not acceptable to do what he did in this chapter and many other examples in the New Testament. Because of the lines of acceptance were not observed, he ventured into the realm of what? Sinners. He moved into the realm of sinners. Now just pause for one moment, because maybe tax collectors really are the equivalent of the tax collectors here, but my guess is there are some other examples of what this tax collector sinner might be for us. If this were being written today, what descriptions would Jesus give for this? The second takeaway I want to give you is mercy affirms your worth. And this isn't necessarily in the text, but I think philosophically it follows. Mercy is only meaningful if the recipient has worth. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because we have intrinsic worth from God, we're created in the imago Dei, the image of God, we have worth, not created worth. We don't build the worth. It's in us. It's who we are. As a matter of fact, all of creation bears that. And because of that worth, mercy makes sense. It's not an abstract. Mercy is extended to us because of what God has put in us. It's not worth that we generate, but worth that is bestowed. Because we were creating God's image, there's intrinsic worth which bears forth the gesture of mercy. That's number 2. Number 3, mercy opens the gate of forgiveness and acceptance. Mercy is God's movement as a first gesture. As a first gesture. It precedes everything else. It comes before anything else. As a result, there's a flood of benefits that are available to us. Forgiveness, acceptance, freedom. Again, Brian Stevenson wrote this. In fact, I heard him say this in a lecture. He said, "I'm so glad each of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done." Because of mercy, there are chains that can be broken. There is freedom in your life that can be received. Without that clearing of the slate, those things are nearly out of reach of everyone. All of us need mercy. Here's the fourth piece. Mercy feels you before it fixes you. Mercy feels you before it fixes you. The compassion resident in God's mercy elicits a visceral response that leads to transformation. He loves. He embraces. He empathizes. Please believe this. God is not only committed to mercy, but his heart is also moved for and toward you with compassion. I don't know where you're at today, but that's something that has to be onboarded. It has to be held and sat with. The fifth thing, and I'll kind of start wrapping this up with this, the fifth thing is mercy finds you where you are, not where you should be. Mercy finds you where you are right this moment, not where you should be. It is worth noting that Jesus doesn't expect Matthew to do anything before the mercy. He doesn't say, okay, get your life together, and then you can follow me. Or go and make things right, and then you can follow me. There doesn't even seem to be any negotiation or stipulation at all. He simply said, follow, and we don't get the rest of the story. We don't get the backstory. But Matthew follows. He follows. He eats. Jesus goes and eats with him before anything else happens. There was no other process that took place before Jesus went to a whole hive of tax collectors and ate with them and drank with them. He doesn't expect before mercy. There's nothing that precedes it. I really do think it's that strong of an orienting principle for the church. I've said this before. If we were to start over, I would advocate strongly that we call our church Mercy Church. That we call it Mercy Church. That would be our first step, our first action, following the model of Jesus. There's a lecture by Stanley Hauerwas, who is a brilliant theologian. I know people who have taken classes from him. I guess he's quite a cranky human, but he's brilliant. He was voted the most important theologian in North America at one time. He said this in this lecture: this repositions mercy. It's not just what Jesus shows to the tax collectors, it's the constitutive. See, I can't even say his words. He's brilliant. Constitutive. I don't actually say this word in real life. It constitutes the practice of this new community. The church is mercy, or it isn't truly the church. Can I say that again? The church is mercy, or it isn't even the church. It's not the true church. The Pharisees represent a community organized around sacrifice as performance. Jesus inaugurates a community organized around mercy as practice. Mercy as practice. See, church, mercy is more than an idea about the church. More than something we're supposed to do, it is the church's orienting principle. It is the church's very being. Jesus didn't set out to be a problem. This is what he set out to be. He's simply led by mercy. And strangely enough, mercy turned out to be a problem. To be one of the most disruptive forces in any system built around exclusion. It was disruptive. He was a problem. Every table he sat at, every person he touched, every sinner he called, it was mercy in motion, and it disrupted everything. Church, can I suggest this? When done following Jesus, it still does. It still disrupts. The question for us as Immanuel is whether we are willing to let mercy be that disruptive force in us. We have to allow ourselves to be held in mercy, extend that mercy to others. In a world that is bent on retribution and exclusion and non-acceptance, we are to be the people of mercy. Please pray with me. Lord, when we talk about mercy, it's inspiring, but we're also at a point where we've been inoculated with it. We're cured from it. I pray that you would bring us to the sheer and utter awareness of how critical it is for us as a community, for people outside of the doors of this building right now, for people who are houseless in our city, for people who are being injured or persecuted because of their nation of origin or the color of their skin. We are to be mercy. So please help us. Spirit, please move inside of us that we can demonstrate this in as pure of a way as we can, in as righteous way, that our hearts would be broken for those around us who go through significant pain, suffering, and exploitation, and we could move toward them with the promise that there is more, that there's a way, that your love is real. And it's demonstrated as we extend this remarkable mercy to the world. We pray this in Jesus' name. Would you stand with me? Let me speak this benediction over you as you go. Go now knowing that Jesus, the friend of sinners, draws near to all to the broken, to the needy, the sick of soul, even to you if you're doing great today. Jesus said that mercy is better than sacrifice, and His mercy extends to each one of us right now. He has called you to Himself, and He will not let you go. So, my friends, go in peace to love and to be loved, to walk in the freedom of the mercy of God. Go in His blessing and go to the park. God bless you.